have praised each of you in the past for coming together on the transportation issue with the funding of Metro. All of that seems to me to be getting challenged now because of the budget pressures that you all be under, given the economic downturn and the pandemic. Talk to me about transportation and what you plan to do. Is there any special efforts amongst the three of you all to help with Metro with its shortfalls, or any other major issues that you want to talk about? Governor Hogan, you've obviously got the purple line to deal with. Governor Northam, you've got, and Mayor Bowser, you guys got the Long Bridge issue to deal with, and some progress being made on that, on the environmental impact. But Governor Hogan, starting with you, because I know you got to go. Give me your thoughts in that area.
Yeah, well, thank you. Obviously, all of the transportation issues are critical to the economy of the entire region, and we've had challenging issues to deal with respect to Metro and with respect to traffic congestion and with respect to all of the issues about how do we get people to and from work, in a better and faster way so they can spend more time, quality of life with their families, and so that people have choices on transportation. We had all made really good progress prior to the pandemic, and as you pointed out, the three of us all came together. Metro had about a $500 million shortfall every year, and there was no funding mechanism, and we all got together and agreed to. My proposal originally was to have a four-way split of that $500 million shortfall between the federal government and our two states and the district. And the federal government refused to participate, even though 40% of the people that ride Metro are federal workers. And so the three of us stepped up in our jurisdictions. It wasn't an easy thing to do, but we did cover the shortfall. We've been trying to invest in Metro. The governing body is somewhat complex there, and they've got a whole host of issues that have been going on there for years. But we're trying to make improvements. It's going to be even more challenged. I'm going to continue to push to see if we can't get our federal partners to step up. But each of our budgets is extremely challenged, and we're going to have major shortfalls in revenue, especially without that fourth stimulus package, without that $500 billion. We're asking from the federal government to state and local governments. It's not just our Metro system, but every transit system, every bus system, every light rail, and every transportation project in America is going to be impacted by COVID. But on a good note, I'll say that right at the beginning, just before this crisis, Governor Northam and I came together on a historic Beltway Accord to get private sector investment to build a new American Legion bridge, to improve the Beltway on both sides of the river, which is going to have a dramatic improvement. It's going to not only create tens of thousands of jobs, but will cut traffic times dramatically and make major improvements. And that project, I think, can continue to move forward because it's mostly investment from the private sector and it's not going to be as impacted. But we've all got to work together as a region on transportation. It's critical to our economy and to the life and the health of the entire region.
Governor Hogan, I don't know if you have to leave in the middle. I don't want you to leave in the middle of somebody answering the question, but if you want to.
I'm going to try to listen to my colleagues. I'm going to have the other guys wait on my next meeting.
Okay, great. All right. Well, then I'm going to turn to Governor Northam to talk about the transportation issues, the budget pressures, and how we as a region are going to deal with those, because I do believe they are going to be very important to help us grow back from the pandemic.
It's absolutely vital, Tony. And again, as the governor and mayor will say, we've had a great relationship working together. There's nothing more important than an efficient and safe transportation system. And I know we've had ongoing issues with Metro over the years, and the three of us have tried to work together, and we'll continue to make sure that remains a viable means of transportation that's very, very important for the area. Pam and I actually lived in Washington when I was at Walter Reed, and we used the Metro every day. And so that's certainly a top priority of ours. It's interesting, Tony, what's going on with transportation in Virginia. Just make a couple quick points. We've got about $6 billion in the queue right now, and these projects are ongoing, and we've actually been able to keep moving forward with the projects with less traffic on the road. So there's been a little bit of a silver lining during the pandemic, and in particular to Northern Virginia and the greater Washington area, as Larry said, he stole a little bit of my thunder there. We worked together, and we're working on the American Legion Bridge, which is a tremendous bottleneck, and we'll get that taken care of, and that will be moving forward. Rail and transit is extremely important, and the mayor will probably comment on this as well. But the Long Bridge is a bottleneck for our trains, and we want to expand access for our commercial trains and also for Amtrak. And so we're in the process of moving forward with that project as well. The last point I want to make very quickly, Tony, we raised our gas tax in Virginia this past year to help pay for a number of these projects. But the reality is, and it's a good thing that we're weaning ourselves away from fossil fuels, but we've got to think outside the box. And I really would appreciate input from the business sector on how we pay for transportation, because we're not going to continue to be able to keep up with it if we rely on a fossil fuel tax. And so if we think about, for example, a miles driven tax, we've got to have leadership from the federal level, because obviously you're driving from one state to another, and so it's not as simple as you might think. But the point being, transportation is important. We've got to continue to work together to figure out how to pay for it, because the money doesn't fall out of the sky. It's very expensive, and the fossil fuel tax is not going to be a viable option for the long term.
Thank you very much, Governor. Mayor Bowser, you're sort of the hub. Everything comes into you on the Metro, and you are also the hub for many of our roads and rail and whatnot. Can you speak to the transportation issues and what we could be doing in the region to do better on that, and how we can do better now that we know we're going to really need it to come out of this pandemic? You're muted, Mayor. You're muted.
All right, thanks for that. I was just going to say our attention to what happens with Metro. I think the governor is right that this is not an issue unique to our regional system, that we're going to see the problems and need some kind of specific program to bring our transit properties back. But it's very important for us. You've heard me say 1,000 times that it's the economic engine of our region, and making sure we have efficient public transportation is important. We hit a milestone with our friends in Virginia over Long Bridge, and we're going to continue very careful planning about that. We think that's important. Union Station is a big transportation hub for all of us, MARC, VRE, Amtrak, and it's also a very critical area in our city. So getting on track with how Union Station comes online is important. We just were made very good progress during this pandemic on one of our biggest transportation projects ever, and that's the 11th Street Bridge, which is also very important to Governor Hogan's constituents. And that is going to be not just effective and efficient piece of bridge, but the most beautiful bridge coming out now, going across the Anacostia River. I'd like to come at it, your question with a slightly different vantage point too, because a lot of our transportation planners and advocates in the region also want us to look closely at what having so little traffic on the roads, and if we can replicate that with more people in the offices. Wouldn't that be great if we could get from point A to point B in half the time, which is what we're seeing now kind of in COVID days? And is there a way to think about our bus and bus only lanes and transit and bike lanes that allow people to commute in half the time with having just as many people in their office buildings? So we're using this time also to think about transportation and having less traffic, and what that could mean for the lived experiences in our offices in the downtown. We are going to have a big transit way open soon coming down 16th Street. Again, it's a major connection for Governor Hogan's constituents and mine, who are traveling the length of Washington to their offices. And we think this is going to be a big transportation advancement.